She's made a comment in her own house. You've got her on camera. She hasn't said anything to you. Don't matter. She never got cameras on. She's getting arrested. She's getting arrested. Why are you doing? Units coming. Don't worry. She hasn't done anything. She's autistic. I don't care. She's autistic. I know you're okay. I'm telling you, I've got units coming. She's going to be arrested tonight. I'll wait till the police officer's coming. I'll like explain.
That's why we got her on in the first place.
If I get put calm down. She's autistic. Can you stop staring at her, please? She's got autism. Can you just stand there? She's in a cupboard. She can't go anywhere. She can't go anywhere. Stand there, dear. They're going to remove her for what? Because you're bothered. She said the word lesbian. Her nana is a lesbian. She's married to a woman. She's not homophobic. Look what you're clenching your fist. Go away from my teenage daughter.
What is up with you?
There's something wrong with you, mate. She didn't aim it at the police officer.
Homophobic remarks at my colleague.
It's not a homophobic remark. She said, I think she's a lesbian like Nana.
She called. If you want to bully people, you'll just get one of them badges there. That's what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Caitlin! Where did you go? Where's this? Does it go right under there?
She's autistic. She don't like people touching her. She will have a meltdown. She won't come out. She's got autism. I'm Lisa.
Talk to her so she can come out. Because we're trying not to do this, aren't we? We've been trying for a long time.
But she hasn't done nothing wrong. That officer out there has assaulted me for no reason. She's got autism. She's autistic, man.
The issue is, if an officer decides to arrest her...
She wasn't arrested. They brought her home.
She's under arrest now.
No, but she was going upstairs and she made a comment to me and that officer ran in my house and assaulted me and tried to get to my daughter for now.
If you want to make a complaint about any of it, that's fine.
I am going to.
That will have been on.
I am going to. Yeah, because it is on and she has.
She's now under arrest.
She was full of rage and she ran in the house and she barged me into this corner.
A mother whose autistic daughter was dragged from home by 7 cops after saying that a female officer was a lesbian like Nana is set to take legal action against the police force. The 16-year-old girl, who also suffers from spinal disability scoliosis, had been driven to her home in Leeds, West Yorkshire, United Kingdom, by officers after attending the city's gay pride celebrations with her sister when she allegedly made the so-called homophobic remark. As we saw in the video, she was later dragged away screaming by West Yorkshire police in the early hours of Monday morning, having been arrested on suspicion of homophobic public order offence. We've just seen the footage which went viral on TikTok. It was filmed by the girl's mother in their own home. So this all played out in their own home, and the mother is now seeking legal advice. She's likely to take legal action, which I would think she's entitled to do. Maybe it needs to be done. I don't really know. So the police have confirmed that they won't be taking any further action against the 16-year-old girl, but she was put through this ordeal. So instead of reading through the remainder of the article, I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview. So essentially, there was gay pride in Leeds, and the 16-year-old girl seemingly snuck out. She wasn't really allowed out. Her parents didn't want her, or her mother didn't want her going out, but she did. She also did something else that was naughty. She got drunk. She drank alcohol. In England, you're not allowed to drink alcohol until you're 18 years of age. She was only 16 years old. Very, very naughty. Guess what? Literally everybody in England starts drinking early. Literally everybody. So she was out there somewhat inebriated and she bumped into her sister, 18 years of age. Her sister tried to get her home, but the 16-year-old was not complying. So the 18-year-old girl called the police. Hey officers, my sister's out. It's gay pride. She's had a little bit to drink. She shouldn't have. She's a very naughty girl. Could you please help me get her home safely? Thank you. So the police came, and as far as I understand, they drove the 16-year-old girl home and they took her into the home. Everything seemed to be somewhat okay at that point. Maybe the officers wanted to have a quick word with the mother, the family, saying, hey there, she is only 16. She shouldn't really be drinking. Could you keep an eye on that, please? But whilst they were in the family home, the 16-year-old girl again inebriated and were told that she's autistic. She apparently said to one of the police officers, you'll see the photo, you'll know which one it is. Apparently the 16-year-old girl says that one of the officers was a lesbian like Nana. So meaning that the 16-year-old autistic girl thought that one of the female officers was lesbian like her grandma. And that's what caused offence. The officers concerned were offended by that. They were offended that somebody thought that one of them were homosexual. Oh no, shocking. How terrible that someone might think that one of the officers is gay. How terrible. horrible. So obviously the United Kingdom police force decided that the 16-year-old inebriated autistic girl making that comment in her own home in the early hours of the morning was making a dreadful homophobic remark. Oh, you awful person, 16-year-old, saying something naughty whilst drunk. So the officers insisted on arresting her. And we see in the video that the 16-year-old girl, who is autistic, claims to be autistic, seems to be quite autistic if you ask me, is panicked. She's panicking. She's huddling in a cupboard. She's punching herself. She's punching the wall. She doesn't know what's going on. The other family members are also distressed. That's why they recorded this incident. We hear the mother say to the police officers, hey, police officers, she wasn't being homophobic. Her grandma is a lesbian. She loves her grandma. We're all of the understanding that homosexuality is a normal part of life. The 16-year-old girl just spent the evening at Gay Pride celebrating diversity. She's not a homophobic. She didn't make a homophobic remark. And I would add to that, this is my commentary at this point, I would add to that, I would say, so what if it was? So what if she did make a homophobic remark? So what? She did so in the comfort and the security of her own home. Should she be arrested for that? Really? Come on. We see how many officers are in the family home trying to arrest this distressed girl, who also suffers from a physical disability, a physical condition, spinal disability scoliosis. She has severe pain, I believe, in her back. And the police officers between them couldn't say, hey, you know what? She is only 16. She is autistic. She is somewhat inebriated. This really isn't the biggest deal in the world. Why can't we just let her be? Why can't we just leave her alone? Hey, young lady, that's not a very nice thing to say. You should apologize, really, but, you know, we're humans here. We can't force you to apologize. Anyway, so the girl was detained for 20 hours. Eventually, she was released. And now, as we say, as this article says, the mother is thinking to herself, you know what? I'm really unhappy about this situation. Maybe it's going to be best for society. Maybe it will be best for my daughter if we take legal action against the police force. And I'm not very supportive of trivial litigious behavior in general. I don't like frivolent lawsuits. Ultimately, this isn't the biggest deal in the world. She was detained for 20 hours. She's been let go. No further action is going to be taken. Everyone concerned could wash their hands of this situation. But I think the family do have a good point here. This incident should not have happened. Why has this incident happened? Well, we could throw in our suggestions here. That would be one reason to take legal action so that this subject can be examined thoroughly. My opinion would be that the UK, United Kingdom, certainly West Yorkshire Police Force overreacted in a ridiculous way against a young person, against a minor who happened to be inebriated at the time, who was in their own home, is autistic, is a sufferer of spinal disability scoliosis, who said one word, lesbian. That's the offending word, lesbian. I've just said it twice in a row. Should I now face 20 years in jail? She said lesbian. Her grandmother is a lesbian. Her friends are lesbians. This is the year 2023. We're all aware that homosexuality is a thing. We're all aware that being homophobic is not to be tolerated. But let's examine that just a little bit. And I'm going to say just a little bit. I'm not going to rip that apart entirely. What does it mean to be homophobic? Well, as I say, I'm not going to rip into that entirely because if I were to, I'd likely get blocked from YouTube or something. But I'll give my 2 cents. I'll dive into that just a little bit, step into that. I think you've got casual homophobia. I think you've got casual racism. And I think you've got severe homophobia, severe racism. Now, I absolutely would say that any severe homophobia or racism or sexism or anything like that should not be tolerated and in a lot of cases should face some repercussions. Severe racism, severe discrimination of various kinds should face some consequences. It's not fair to discriminate to the extent that you're taking harmful action against another. Perhaps that's violent action. Perhaps that's damaging their ability to work or live in a certain property. You know, those kinds of things ought to be stamped out. But on the lower end, I think we need to be realistic. We all have brains in our heads. We all have our own opinions. We all have had our own experiences which help form those opinions. opinions. We don't all have to be 1000% tolerant of all this and all that. We can think some negative thoughts. We can think, hey, you know what? That group over there, I mean, some of them are kind of annoying for this reason, that reason. You know, that group over there, I think they do this and that slightly wrong. We're allowed to think these things. You can't stop us from thinking these things. And that's what the UK police are trying to do. That's what I would say. The UK police are directed by the government, they're directed by the media, whomever they're directed by, but they're being directed to enforce punishment of any wrong think. And I happen to be an habitual wrong thinker. Let's look at religious groups. I mean, there's one that springs to mind, but I'm not going to mention it, and there's more than one religious group that are arguably, to some extent or another, homophobic, that take issue with homosexuals. What are you going to do, United Kingdom government? What are you going to do, West Yorkshire police? Arrest everybody that's part of a certain major religion just because they may have some negative thoughts about a certain group? Is that what you're going to do? No, you're not. You can't do that. That would be unfeasible. It would be unreasonable. So you're going to let those guys have whatever thoughts they have in their heads, but you're going to target a 16-year-old autistic girl who says something which seemingly wasn't even homophobic, and she did say that whilst inebriated and whilst in her own home. I'm going to say this as an example. I've come across articles of people displaying Nazi flags outside of their home in America. I don't actually care about that. Personally, I don't care. All right? If I see an article about some guy or woman displaying a Nazi flag outside of their home on their property in the United States where you have freedom of speech, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care. Makes no difference to me. People are allowed to have their own thoughts, their own opinions. You don't have to like all of them, but we're supposed to be tolerant, aren't we? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I would display a Nazi flag outside of my property, but my point is that different people are going to have different opinions, and we just have to accept them, accept that as a fact. Not everyone is going to be supportive of your particular group. That's just how it is. You think everyone's supportive of me? Get out of here. We just have to suck it up, don't we? And we just get on with things. We don't call the police to get people arrested and detained just because they say or think something that we don't agree with. I guess I've gone on a bit of a ramble here, longer than I ought to have done. So I'm going to wrap things up at this point. If you appreciate the coverage of this article, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. If you agree, disagree with my comments, please do drop a comment. As I say, I'm pretty pro free speech. Having said that, YouTube isn't so much. And also, I do want this channel to be very respectful. So please do be respectful if you've got anything poignant to say in the comments. But anyway, I'm going to move on to the next subject.